my channel and welcome back to another video. So in today's video I thought we would go through how I annotate my books. So I thought I would quickly run through some of the stuff that I use, my tools, my kit, if you want to call it that. I mean, you don't need any of this, what I'm about to show you. If you want to annotate, all you need is a pen. I mean, that's the most standard basic thing that you need that I'm pretty sure everyone has in their house. You just need a standard pen. I go above and beyond, but that's just me. I like to put in all the effort with a new hobby. I like to have everything, but you don't need that. All you need is a pen if you want to start annotating. But if you want to try something new, then here's some of the things that I kind of love. So the first thing we have is tabs. Now I keep my tabs in the Book of Eyes kind of tin pot that I got from Illumicrate. It's very, very noisy, but I keep my tabs in here. Now I just get these from Amazon. I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother kind of knows about these tabs. You have so many different colours and they just kind of all match to your books, which is kind of what I like to do. So you can just buy packs of these on Amazon for like $5. They are really good. They are not that sticky. Like if you stick it to your page and put it off, it's not going to rip the page or anything like that. But they're also see-through, so when you stick it on and if it's covering any of the words, you can still see the words. So if you do reread books often, you're not going to have to pull the tabs off every time to read the words underneath. You can just read them naturally, which is one of the things that I love about these. Now I do use other tabs as well. I do have these colourful neon sort of ones. I use these for a series that I want to kind of keep track of, and I don't want to chop and change the colours, because if I match the colours of the tabs to the books, then if I'm doing it in a series, all the colours are going to be different and it's going to be confusing in my brain to kind of remember which colours for which in each book. So I like to use these because you get 7 tabs, which is kind of the amount that I tend to use anyway, and then I can just kind of keep it consistent throughout the whole series. Now you can tell I tend to use some colours more than often because most of these tend to be like the world building ones or the plot ones, because obviously in a fantasy book they are your main kind of port of call for tabs. But I do like to use these as well. Again, these are very neon and very vibrant, but they are, you know, see-through as well. They are transparent, so again you can stick them on and you can still read the words underneath. So these two tend to be like my go-to tabs. I haven't really used any others. I tend to just go for these. You can get them both on Amazon. You can get, I'm pretty sure this was a pack of like 6 or 7 for like £3, and then you can get so many different colours of these as well. I know you can get these elsewhere as well. I'm pretty sure you can get them on like Temu or Shein. It just depends on like the quality, I suppose, that you want. So that was kind of the tabs that I use, and then I suppose the other thing that I tend to use is pens and highlighters. Now I do have quite a lot of pens and highlighters. That's just because I like stationery. I like buying stationery. I don't tend to use a lot, but I like to buy it, so we have quite a lot to go through. So in this little pot here, again I got it from Illumicrate. This is the Tale of Gothic Romance book pot, and I keep my Zebra Mildliner pens in here. These are highlighters, and the thing that I love about these is that they are dual ended. So one end is the highlighter and then is another end which is just like a thick pen. I don't tend to use the thick pen side. I do tend to just use the highlighter side, but you can get them in so many different colours, which again, to match up with your tabs or the, you know, the colour of the book and things, it just makes it a bit more aesthetic. So you kind of get a pack of all these different colours. I think you can get like a pack of 15, but you can get more and you can get less. These are just like the standard sort of colours that I went for. But I do like to use these for highlighting in my books. I don't tend to highlight that often, but when I do, I tend to kind of use these ones. But then recently I did obviously go to London and I went to Muji and I picked up their highlighters that they had in here. This is just another bookish pot from Illumicrate, and these just kind of have some overflow of pens. So I picked up the Muji highlighters because I quite liked the look of them, because I don't know if you can see that it's actually kind of see-through halfway through, so when you are highlighting you can actually see the text, so you kind of know when to stop, which I thought was really cool. But again, these are dual ended, so you have a normal like felt tip pen at the end. I haven't used the end. I haven't used these pens in general. I just liked them and I thought I would pick them up. So I picked them up in just the standard colours that they had, which was blue, green, yellow, orange and pink, I want to say. But I am excited to get around to using these. I just haven't yet. But I mean, for a standard highlighter, they are pretty good. I did test them on some paper and it didn't bleed through the paper. I haven't tested them on books, so I don't know too much about that, but I'm hoping it doesn't bleed through. Going back to these don't bleed through paper as long as you don't press too hard. If you like linger on the page too much, then obviously they're going to bleed through, just like anything does. But these, I know a lot of people use these, so they are quite highly rated within the bookish community for writing and highlighting in your books. So they're the sort of highlighters that I use, and then onto the pens that I've now started using. Again, they are Muji pens. So I picked up a pack of all their coloured pens that they have. I think it was like £12 for like 8 or 12 pens or something like that. So you can get them in different thicknesses. So you can get them in a 0.38 or you can get them in a 0.5. I tested them out on some paper and I preferred the 0.38. I just thought it was finer, it was thinner, and I thought for writing on my books and underlining, it's just, I feel like the thinner the better, because I don't want anything to bleed through. So they just have a very fine tip, and obviously these are like one of the best pens that I use. I just love how smooth and it just glides onto the page. So Muji pens are the only pens that I use in my books. Now you don't need to be as fancy as me, like you can use a standard pen. I've only just recently been converted to Muji pens. I bought a pack of their black ones on Amazon. It cost me an absolute fortune, but it was worth it. Now I realise there's a Muji shop in London, so I'm going to be visiting there every time I go to London just to kind of stock up. But I just love the way that it writes, and Muji pens are just for me. So they come in so many different colours. So again, I thought I would match the colours to the tabs. So then it's a bit more colourful in my books. It's not as black and white with just a black pen. But you don't need to do that in your books. You can just use a normal pen. You don't need to use coloured pens. I'm just trying this for the first time in the book that I'm currently reading, and I'm enjoying it so far. So it's probably something I'm going to use for a while, or at least until I find a new obsession on how to annotate. Now, if you want to write in your books and use these amazing pens and highlighters, but you don't actually want to write in your books, then I would always recommend clear sticky notes as a way to kind of help with that. So these are just thin, they are transparent, you stick them on your page, you can write on them, and then if you ever want to change the book or sell it, or you just don't want it, you just pull it out and there you go. Because I think a lot of people are scared about writing in their books, and obviously if you make a mistake or something, once it's in the book you can't change it, that's there for life. And there is that worry about that, I suppose. I'm still worried about making a mistake or having to cross something out. So these are kind of like a lifesaver for that. It kind of just takes the worry out. So I've got some normal square ones and I've got some slightly larger ones. These are just handy, like I said, to just write in your books without the worry of writing in your books. But then you don't have to use these, you can just use standard post-it notes. Obviously these are transparent so you can still read the text underneath, but you don't have to. If you're happy just peeling this post-it note off to read what's underneath, then you know, you do you. There's no right or wrong. I have these, but I don't tend to use these. I tend to either use like proper post-it notes, and I'll just kind of stick it in the side or the corner, and I'll just kind of lift the flap up if I need to reread, because I was trying to find pens that work well on these. Now the Muji pens do work well, but you do kind of have to wait for it to dry because they do smear, and I just worry about if I turn the page and press like the page onto this, is it going to transfer onto the other page? So I haven't quite found a pen that works. The only pen that I have found is a Sharpie pen, because they dry really quickly, but the only Sharpie I have is like a really thick standard Sharpie pen, and I don't want to be writing in Sharpie on this because I'm going to need like 10 of these just to write a sentence. So I could probably do with finding like some really thin Sharpie pens. I think that would work really well, but I'm not too bothered at the moment. I'm happy just using standard post-it notes. I do also have these post-it notes. Again, these are transparent. I think I got these from a stationery shop in America. I think I ordered online. I think it was like Cloth and Paper or something like that. Like I said, these are just exactly the same as these, but this is just slightly coloured, but it's still transparent. I haven't used these, but they're kind of here with the others, but as and when I want to, if ever. Now something else that I tend to use, which is probably a bit odd, is I have these little notebooks. I did kind of take them from my old job because I worked in a school, and you know, we had notebooks everywhere, exercise books. So I took one of these, and I use these because they're quite small. So what I do is I use this to stick my tabs on, to write my key, and then I cut it out, and then I stick this on the front of the book with some washi tape, just so then I know what each kind of tab means and what it corresponds to. Because a lot of people do it on the front page of their book, and you know, bravo to you, well done. I can't do that because I know I'm going to make a mistake, and if I make a mistake on the first page, it's just going to ruin the whole experience for me. So I tend to put it on this. I tend to use this as a bookmark, kind of stick it in to the page I'm at, and then I've always kind of got this with me, so if something's happening, I can just look at this and go, right, I need this tab, this colour pen, and I can just go, instead of having to always flick through back to the first page to kind of figure out what I need. It's probably a bit unnecessary, but for me it works really well, and I've done this with like every book that I've ever annotated. Obviously it's a bit extreme, you don't need to do this, but it's just something that I do. You don't need a small notebook like this, you can literally just have a white bit of paper and just cut it out to size. But I just like that if I ever need to change something, or if I add an extra tab, or if I don't end up using a tab as much as I thought I would, I can just get rid of it. I can just rewrite it again. I can just take another paper out, rewrite it, stick it in, instead of having to cross stuff out on the first page and it just looked messy, because I just don't want my books to look messy. I don't mind writing in them, I don't mind highlighting in them, but if I cross something out, to me that just makes it messy, and I just want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So I tend to use this to kind of help with the anxiety of messiness in my books. So I want to say that is everything that I kind of use to help me annotate, or to make me annotate my books. It's pretty self-explanatory. Pens, highlighters, sticky tabs, sticky notes. I mean, they're just the basics of kind of what I use. I don't use anything extra. Like I said, if you watch any other YouTube video on annotating, you will see the exact same things, because they're kind of the best things to use, or they're at least the things that I like to use. I try not to make it too complicated with what I use, because I don't want to be carrying around a whole pencil case of stuff just to annotate a book, because at the end of the day I want to have fun. I don't want it to feel like a chore when I annotate. So yeah, that's all the stuff that I use. So let's go into how I annotate my books. Now, some of you might not realise that I do actually annotate my books. I have kind of gotten out of the routine of doing it, so I am trying to slowly get back into it. But I just thought I would talk through where I kind of started from, and kind of what I'm doing now, and how times have changed, how I do things differently, what kind of works for me, and whether that kind of gives you guys any inspiration to give it a go yourself, really. So I pretty much started off annotating with a pen and highlighter. I have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren here just as an example. So there are a couple tabs there, and that's about it. And I literally just took a pen and I did some underlining in it, and then I had a highlighter, and again I just randomly highlighted in it. There was no rhyme or reason as to why something was highlighted and something was underlined. It was just kind of based on the mood. Same with the tabs. I just kind of stuck the tabs on places that I kind of wanted to remember, but there was no real rhyme or reason. I chose pink because the cover is pink, so I mean I matched the tabs to the cover, you know, which looking back I quite enjoyed. But then like this book is absolutely stunning. I purposely had to find this on Blackwell's because I wanted this exact cover. But then seeing how I've now annotated it, and knowing that I'm probably never going to get rid of this because I have drawn in it, but this cover, you know, we just like, I feel like if I annotated this now it'd be so different to what I did back then. But that's not saying there's anything wrong with this type of annotating. If this is what you do, then you know, you go for it. This worked for me for a couple months, and this is like kind of the only way that I did annotate my books. And then I kind of did a bit more research, and I wanted to be one of those girlies that had all the tabs, matched the cover, you know, the different coloured pens, the different coloured highlighters and things like that. So then I kind of tried to just turn it into my own thing, I suppose. But this is where we started out with. It works. I wouldn't really go back to this, but like I said, if this is how you annotate, then you know, that's perfectly fine, each to their own. But for me this was just a bit too standard. But then I don't know if that was because this is a romance book as well. So most of the books that I annotate tend to be fantasy, just because they are more world building. You've got magic, you know, there's a lot of things that I kind of want to remember, or there's a lot of things happening that I want to write down, my thoughts. Whereas with a romance, it's basically just cute. So I just highlighted the cute moments, the things, you know, the quotes and bits that I liked, and that was all really. But I kind of started out like this. And then, I mean, the next book I'm going to show you is another romance book, but then I tried Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. Now this is where I kind of like upped my game dramatically. So we now have coloured tabs. I tried to match the tabs to the colour of the book, because this is very giving like, you know, dark academia sort of colours. So I tried to match that with the tabs inside. And then inside as well, I also created a little key. So each coloured tab obviously relates to something that I wanted to remember. So I have yellow for quotes that I love, pink for key information. I have like a reddy pink for romance and friendship. I've got a green for funny and laugh out loud moments. I've got like a light green for anything that was relatable. And I've got a dark blue which was sad and what the fuck moments. And then I've got like a light blue grey sort of colour for plot twists and like OMG moments. So they were just like my standard go-to tabs. I would use those in like everything, whether it was fantasy, whether it was romance, whether it was thriller, you know, anything. I would just use those tabs and then I'll just go through, and if anything matched up with that, there you go, that's what I used. So I would then underline, you know, the section that I wanted to remember, and then put the right colour tab to go with that. And then I did that throughout the book. Obviously not every page has got writing on, some have got like double and things like that, but then this was like kind of the start of me going into a bit more depth with annotating, because you've got the multiple things that I want to remember. Now again, it is a romance, so there wasn't like much to remember, like there's no world building tab or things like that. It was just cute moments, things I wanted to remember. If a moment made me sad, I kind of wanted to remember that, to know if I ever looked back. I don't think I've ever really gone back and looked through my tabs. It is very much an aesthetic, because I just like the way it looks. I do think that if I did look back, you know, it would be helpful, but as of today, while I'm currently recording this, I have not gone back and like flicked through my tabs to go, oh, I want to remember that moment. But the moment will come, I'm sure, at some point, but right now it hasn't. So we are just doing this for aesthetic reasons, and just it makes me remember the story more, because I'm constantly thinking in my head, oh, is this something I should remember? Is this a bit of foreshadowing? Am I going to, you know, want to remember how this character looks? You know, because is it going to mean something in the future? So it's just all things are going through my head about, you know, what I want to annotate and why. But then, like I said, this is where we kind of went up to. So we went to coloured tabs, multiple coloured tabs, still just a black pen. I didn't highlight in this, I just used a pen, and I think I went to that more often than not. And then a lot of the times with my annotating, as you will see, I tend to just stick with tabs. I think part of me, it's still the worry of writing in my books, because it's one of those, if I don't think I'm gonna like the book and I'm probably gonna want to get rid of it, I don't want to write in it, because it's gonna be hard. I'm just gonna have to put it in the bin, and I don't like doing that with my books. So I suppose it's whether you're happy writing in your books, whether you're happy like defacing them, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. I was in that mindset for quite a long time, so I started just using tabs more and refusing to use a pen. And I have two examples for that. So I currently have the Throne of Glass. This is the first book in the Throne of Glass series. Now the tabs for this, I used something very different. So I used like the bright neon colours, and then I have set coloured tabs for each obviously section that I want to remember, but then I used this throughout the entire series, so everything matched up. Now I haven't finished my reread of Throne of Glass. I started this last year. I think I got up to the Assassin's Blade and just stopped, so I read the first 4 again, the first 3, but I just kind of paused and never got back to it, so I need to do that. But I used the coloured tabs, and then this is the key that I used, and then every book has the same key with the same tabs, because I thought if I was matching up the coloured tabs to the book, in every book it's going to be different. So if I did want to go back and look at something, I'm going to have to constantly look at the key to figure out what colour it was, to then go and find it in the book. Whereas if all the tabs were the same, you know, it'd be much easier, and then it's the whole series is done. So that was kind of my thinking for this. So we have a light purple for quotes I like, we have a dark purple for plot development, we've got a blue for character development, we've got a green for theories and foreshadowing, we've got a yellow for any answers for the theories or foreshadowing, we've got orange for I have thoughts, so if something happens and I've got a thought about it, I'm going to write it down, use the orange tab, and then I have pink for made me feel something, so that could just be, it could maybe make me feel sad, make me feel happy, you know, all the sorts and feelings are in the pink tab. But then with this, because I know I love this series, but then I didn't like the idea of defacing my book, I just used tabs. I didn't underline, I didn't highlight, I did not write in these at all. These are just tabs, and they are tabs just above the sentence or the paragraph that I wanted to remember. So I know if I go through, I would know, for this instance, the purple, I know the thing that I wanted to remember is this sentence just below. It works in my head, it might not make sense to you guys, but that's how my brain sort of works. So without defacing it, I didn't use any any sticky tabs to like write on and things like that. I didn't write anything down. So even with like the thoughts tab, if I went back, I would have to reread it and probably try and remember the thoughts that I had. Probably defeats the point of doing it, but at that moment in time, that's just how I was doing it. So I have this for the first 3 Throne of Glass books, and I'm probably going to carry on just so I don't have to redo the first 3 like this. I might add and change bits and pieces, but probably it's going to stay the same for the rest of the series. And then I also did it for Priory of the Orange Tree, but I did, obviously, because this is basically a standalone, there is A Day of Fallen Night, which is the prequel, but I don't think it's too big of a deal if I change the colours of the tabs. So again, I used the same tabs to match the colour of the book. And then inside there is no writing, it is just tabs. That's all we did, it's just tabs again and again. I stuck it just above the paragraph or the sentence that I wanted to remember, and then I know in my head where that is. But then because this is very different, I tried out a different sort of annotation key. So I've got orange for world building, I've got a like nudie sort of colour for romance, a very light blue for funny or sarcastic moments, I've got a sky sort of blue for important information, I've got a dark blue for all the emotions, I've got a grey for epic scenes, I've got like a reddy colour for dragons because I love dragons and I just wanted to document every time a dragon was there, a dragon was mentioned. And then I've also got like a nice burnt orangey sort of colour for quotes. I tend to try and use like my favourite colour for quotes, so then it's easy for me to know that's the colour that I'm most drawn to for this sort of annotation key. It's going to be easy for me to try and find the quotes that I want to remember. So this was kind of like the first time I tried a different sort of annotation key without it being just the standard, because I did kind of use the standard for like the Throne of Glass series because it kind of covered everything. Because a lot of people do it where they read a couple chapters, figure out any key points and things that they want to remember, and then they'll set up their annotation key and then go back, reread and annotate. But I just don't have the time or the effort to do that. Once I start a book, I want to start and finish it. I don't want to read a couple chapters and then go back. So I like to have some clear like points that I want to remember, but then it's your annotation key at the end of the day, so you can always add or take out whatever you want, which I think is partly why I don't tend to write in my books for the annotation key. So wherever it is, I have it on a bit of paper that I just write, cut out and stick in with some washi tape, so then if anything adds or changes, I can just pull this out, rewrite it and then stick it back in. Because the last thing I want is, it's the idea of making mistakes, especially on the front page on the first time you write in your book, putting them all down and then you don't end up using that tab, or it changes to something else and it's like, well, you've written in it now. And I personally just don't like the messy sort of look, so this is kind of my way to fix that, I suppose. And then you don't need to stick this in as soon as you start. I tend to use this as like a bookmark, so I'll just kind of carry it around with me as I read the book, so then I'm not constantly going to the first page to realise, right, what colour do I need? It's there out in front of me on the table while I'm reading, so it just makes my life that much easier. So we have this sort of way of annotating, and then I have another way that I tried to annotate, which was obviously not writing in my books, but I wrote on a post-it note, but then I stuck that post-it note like on the edge so you could see like you would with the tabs, and it just reminds me a bit of deckled edges basically of how this looks. And I'm not mad about it, but I am kind of worried about turning the page and everything falling out. So again, this is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and again the key is very self-explanatory. We have key information, sad / heartbreaking, world building, quotes, characters, funny / sarcastic, cute / romantic, and shock / surprised. So in this one I didn't have like an all the emotions, I had more of a, I wanted to remember set emotions, so I used different colours for that. But then, like I said, I didn't write in my books, I used tabs, and then I just ripped some sticky notes, wrote my thoughts on it, and then I just stuck it at the edge, so then I know every page that I flick to, I know that there's going to be like writing or something that I wrote down on the page. Instead of it being like inside the book and like hidden, I can visually see at the edges that there, you know, I have lots of thoughts for this book. And I did like this way of annotating. I think this is the only time that I've done something like this though, so it probably hasn't stuck for a reason. And I think it was just very time consuming, because with a post-it note you obviously need the sticky side to be able to stick in, and I was constantly just ripping up bits of paper. I had paper everywhere for the little bits that I didn't need to use and things. It was just very messy, very extra when I don't think I needed it to be. But I did have a fun time, and I do like the way that it looks. I really like deckled edges in books in general. A lot of people don't, but I quite like them. So this does remind me of that, so I'm quite happy that I've done it. But again, this is a book that if I ever wanted to get rid of it, I can though, because I can just pull the tabs out, pull the sticky notes out, and then there you go, it's like a brand new book. And I suppose if you are kind of scared writing in your books, this is like the best way to go, is just to use post-it notes. You don't need to do it like this, it doesn't need to be like stuck out so you can see it. A lot of people use the clear sticky notes so it looks like you're writing on your books when actually you aren't, which is another kind of way to train your brain that writing in your books is okay. At the end of the day, they are your books. You can do whatever you want with them. If you want to break the spine, if you want to rip pages out, they're your books. No one should judge you for what you want to do with your books. But then the last sort of way that I am annotating, it's kind of how I'm annotating now. So I'm currently reading Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I'm about 150 pages into this, so I'm not far into this at all, but I'm trying a different sort of way of annotating this, because when I went to London I went to the Muji shop and I treated myself to some pens, and I picked up some coloured pens, and I thought that maybe I could use this as a way to help me annotate. So again, inside I've got my key, which is a bit more developed, I suppose. So I've got magic / magical creatures, I've got romance, foreshadowing, sad / emotional, quotes and scenes that I love, questions and theories, and description and world building. So because I know this has vampires and there is some sort of magic system I want to remember, like the magic and the magical creatures, so vampires and that fall under the magical creatures in my head. So I have a simple key. Obviously I've matched the colours to the book as well, but then on the inside I've then matched a colour to the tab as well. So on the key I've used certain colours to write what I want to kind of follow and tab, and now those colours match up in the book. So the magic and magical creatures, I will use the green tab to highlight under, and then I will tab it with the grey tab so I know, so everything kind of matches up. Does that make sense? Because then I thought I can keep those colours the same, because this is going to be like quite a similar sort of annotation style that I want to kind of continue. Like in any fantasy book I'm going to want to follow the world building, I'm going to want to follow the romance, I'm going to want to follow like the magic and the magical creatures. And then I also think it just kind of adds a little bit to the page as well, so there's a bit more colour, there's a bit more depth to it, and it's just a bit, I think it's just a bit more pleasing to the eye, for me especially. So obviously using my tabs as a bookmark currently, and this is the way that I am currently annotating, so I'd like to think this is going to be the way that I'm going to stick with, at least for the time being, because it is a way that I am enjoying at the moment. I did buy like some coloured highlighters as well when I went to Muji, but I haven't really used those, so I'm still unsure as to whether I want to highlight or whether I want to like underline, and in my head I kind of can't get around how to highlight some things and how to underline the others, like in what makes highlighting so much more substantial. Like it needs to be like really important, but then I could think something is really important and then 2 pages later I find out, oh, it literally meant nothing, so then I've highlighted that for kind of no reason. But then it does kind of show the journey that I've gone on as well. So I mean, I'm still a newbie, I'm no pro whatsoever with annotating. I just have fun, I just do it for fun, it looks good, I enjoy doing it, so that's why I do it. But I haven't really done it much recently, so I do kind of want to get back into it. That's why I've started with Empire of the Vampire. Now it is taking me like so much longer to read because I am annotating it, so you kind of need to keep that in the back of your mind as well, because obviously you need to stop, to underline, to highlight, to tab and things like that, and then you can carry on with the story. So it is taking me like 4 times as long as what I would normally take. A lot of people use an audiobook as well, so you can listen to it. So while you're highlighting, you're still kind of listening to the story, and then your eyes can catch up with the words later on. But I mean, there's no right or wrong way to annotate. There is no yes or no. It is whatever feels right to you. And I suppose that's just like the best thing about annotating. They are your books. You have bought them with your own money. You've got them as gifts. They are here for you on your bookshelves. You don't have to listen to anyone that says, oh, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. And it's just the idea of trying to find the right style for you. You might not like to highlight, you might not like to write on your books, you might just want to use a pen and just underline, and that's that. You might want to underline without a ruler, you might want to use a ruler. Like, there's so many different ways of doing stuff. There's no right or wrong way. This is just how I do it, and this is how I'm currently, I suppose, annotating. But I mean, as you saw from the start, my annotation has changed so much over the years, and it's going to keep changing and it's going to keep evolving, and that's the best thing, because as I evolve and change as a reader, so is my annotation style. And I love watching these types of videos to gain inspiration, to see how other people do their annotations, to see what people write, their thought process and things like that, because it just gives you more inspiration about how you can change yours and how you can make it better and how you can just make it fit to you. Because if it doesn't feel right doing it, then don't do it. There is no point in forcing yourself to write in your books if you hate it. That's not fun, that's not enjoyable, that's not the point of it. The point is to do something that you enjoy. And there's this whole stigma around annotation, and I think that a lot of people do it because it looks nice. And you know, you can take pretty pictures and videos for social media and stuff, and it's like, but if you don't enjoy doing it, then you don't need to do it. That's just not your thing. There are so many readers out there that don't annotate, and then there's so many readers that do, and it just depends on where you kind of stand with it. But there's nothing wrong with that. I haven't annotated for a good year and a half, I want to say. It's just been so long, but I've missed that and I want to get back into that. So I'm hoping this video kind of gives you any inspiration. I mean, this video is probably a mess. It's just me talking and rambling on about writing in books, but if it inspires you to start, then I mean, that's all I can hope for. But if you have any tips on how you annotate, whether you have a certain style, whether there's always something that you want to remember, then please comment down below, because I'm forever needing ideas on how to change my annotation style, because if you do it for so long, you get bored. It's good to kind of chop and change every now and then. And I've kind of found a way that works for me for now, but I know in a few books' time it's probably not going to work. So if you have any ideas, any inspiration, any favourite pens, any highlighters, any, you know, favourite brands that you use to help highlighting and annotating and bits and pieces, then just comment down below, because I'm easily persuaded to buy stationery. It's like one of the, other than books, it's like the next best thing that I can buy. So I have no idea how long I've been rambling on for, and I'm sorry if this video is too long or too short, but thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. Thank you for commenting, for liking, for subscribing. Thank you for just doing what you do and interacting with me. I do go through all of your comments and make sure I comment back and like everything. And yeah, I just hope that I've potentially inspired someone to try annotating, or you've seen my annotations and gone, actually, that's not for me. And that's okay as well. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.